Hi, I'm Sam, and together we read the Word of God. We're seeking His will for our lives. We'll read the entire Bible this year using the 5-day Bible reading program. This is a new week, week 20, day 1. Today we'll read 2 Samuel chapter 6, 1 Chronicles chapter 13. We'll jump over to Psalms chapter 60 and conclude with Acts chapter 23. Let me pull it up on the screen here and we'll read together. Here we go. 2 Samuel chapter 6. David again gathered together all the chosen men of Israel, 30,000. David arose and went with all the people who were with him from Baal Judah to bring up from there God's ark, which is called by the name, even the name of the Lord of armies who sits above the cherubim. They set God's ark on a new cart and brought it out of Abinadab's house that was on the hill, and Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, drove the new cart. They brought it out of Abinadab's house, which was in the hill, with God's ark. And Ahio went before the ark. David and all the house of Israel played before the Lord with all kinds of instruments made of cypress wood, with harps, with stringed instruments, with tambourines, with castanets, and with cymbals. When they came to the threshing floor of Nacon, Uzzah reached for God's ark and took hold of it, for the cattle stumbled. The Lord's anger burned against Uzzah, and God struck him there for his error, and he died there by God's ark. David was displeased because the Lord had broken out against Uzzah, and he called that place Perez Uzzah to this day. David was afraid of the Lord that day, and he said, "How could the Lord's ark come to me?" So David would not move the Lord's ark to be with him in David's city. But David carried it aside into Obed-Edom the Gittite's house. The Lord's ark remained in Obed-Edom the Gittite's house 3 months, and the Lord blessed Obed-Edom and all his house. King David was told, "The Lord has blessed the house of Obed-Edom and all that belongs to him because of God's ark." So David went and brought up God's ark from the house of Obed-Edom into David's city with joy. When those who bore the Lord's ark had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed an ox and a fattened calf. David danced before the Lord with all his might, and David was clothed in a linen ephod. So David and all the house of Israel brought up the Lord's ark with shouting and with the sound of the trumpet. As the Lord's ark came into David's city, Michal, the daughter of Saul, looked out through the window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart. They brought in the Lord's ark and set it in its place in the middle of the tent that David had pitched for it. And David offered burnt offerings and peace offerings before the Lord. When David had finished offering the burnt offering and the peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of the Lord of armies. He gave to all the people, even among the whole multitude of Israel, both to men and women, to every one a portion of bread, dates, and raisins. So all the people departed, each to his own house. Then David returned to bless his household. Michal, the daughter of Saul, came out to meet David and said, "How glorious the king of Israel was today, who uncovered himself today in the eyes of his servants' maids, as one of the vain fellows shamelessly uncovers himself." David said to Michal, "It was before the Lord, who chose me above your father and above all his house, to appoint me prince over the people of the Lord, over Israel. Therefore I will celebrate before the Lord. I will be yet more undignified than this, and will be worthless in my own sight. But the maids of whom you have spoken will honor me." Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no child to the day of her death. All right, and now 1 Chronicles chapter 13. David consulted with the captains of thousands and of hundreds, even with every leader. David said to all the assembly of Israel, "If it seems good to you, and if it is of the Lord our God, let's send word everywhere to our brothers who are left in all the land of Israel, with whom the priests and Levites are in their cities that have pasture lands, that they may gather themselves to us. Also, let's bring the ark of our God back to us again, for we didn't seek it in the days of Saul." All the assembly said they would do so, for the thing was right in the eyes of all the people. So David assembled all Israel together, from the Shihor river of Egypt even to the entrance of Hamath, to bring God's ark from Kiriath-Jearim. David went up with all Israel to Baalah, that is, to Kiriath-Jearim, which belonged to Judah, to bring up from there God the Lord's ark that sits above the cherubim, that is called by the name. They carried God's ark on a new cart, and brought it out of Abinadab's house, and Uzzah and Ahio drove the cart. David and all Israel played before God with all their might, even with songs, with harps, with stringed instruments, with tambourines, with cymbals, and with trumpets. When they came to Chidon's threshing floor, Uzzah put out his hand to hold the ark, for the oxen stumbled. The Lord's anger burned against Uzzah, and he struck him because he put his hand on the ark, and he died there before God. David was displeased because the Lord had broken out against Uzzah. He called that place Perez Uzzah to this day. David was afraid of God that day, saying, "How can I bring God's ark home to me?" So David didn't move the ark with him into David's city, but carried it aside into Obed-Edom the Gittite's house. God's ark remained with the family of Obed-Edom in his house 3 months, and the Lord blessed Obed-Edom's house and all that he had. All right, and now Psalms chapter 60. For the chief musician, to the tune of The Lily of the Covenant, a teaching poem by David, when he fought with Aram Naharaim and with Aram Zobah, and Joab returned and killed 12,000 of Edom in the valley of Salt. God, you have rejected us. You have broken us down. You have been angry. Restore us again. You have made the land tremble. You have torn it. Mend its fractures, for it quakes. You have shown your people hard things. You have made us drink the wine that makes us stagger. You have given a banner to those who fear you, that it may be displayed because of the truth. Selah. So that your beloved may be delivered, save with your right hand, and answer us. God has spoken from his sanctuary. I will triumph. I will divide Shechem and measure out the valley of Succoth. Gilead is mine, and Manasseh is mine. Ephraim also is the defense of my head. Judah is my scepter. Moab is my wash basin. I will throw my sandal on Edom. I shout in triumph over Philistia. Who will bring me into the strong city? Who has led me to Edom? Haven't you, God, rejected us? You don't go out with our armies, God. Give us help against the adversary, for the help of man is vain. Through God we will do valiantly, for it is he who will tread down our adversaries. All right, and now Acts chapter 23. Paul, looking steadfastly at the council, said, Brothers, I have lived before God in all good conscience until today. The high priest, Ananias, commanded those who stood by him to strike him on the mouth. Then Paul said to him, God will strike you, you whitewashed wall. Do you sit to judge me according to the law and command me to be struck contrary to the law? Those who stood by said, Do you malign God's high priest? Paul said, I didn't know, brothers, that he was high priest. For it is written, You shall not speak evil of a ruler of your people. But when Paul perceived that the one part were Sadducees, and the other Pharisees, he cried out in the council, Men and brothers, I am a Pharisee, a son of Pharisees. Concerning the hope and resurrection of the dead, I am being judged. When he had said this, an argument arose between the Pharisees and Sadducees, and the crowd was divided. For the Sadducees say that there is no resurrection, nor angel, nor spirit, but the Pharisees confess all of these. A great clamor arose, and some of the scribes of the Pharisees' part stood up and contended, saying, We find no evil in this man. But if a spirit or angel has spoken to him, let's not fight against God. When a great argument arose, the commanding officer, fearing that Paul would be torn in pieces by them, commanded the soldiers to go down and take him by force from among them and bring him into the barracks. The following night, the Lord stood by him and said, Cheer up, Paul, for as you have testified about me at Jerusalem, so you must testify also at Rome. When it was day, some of the Jews banded together and bound themselves under a curse, saying that they would neither eat nor drink until they had killed Paul. There were more than 40 people who had made this conspiracy. They came to the chief priests and the elders and said, We have bound ourselves under a great curse to taste nothing until we have killed Paul. Now therefore, you with the council inform the commanding officer that he should bring him down to you tomorrow, as though you were going to judge his case more exactly. We are ready to kill him before he comes near." But Paul's sister's son heard they were lying in wait, and he came and entered into the barracks and told Paul. Paul summoned one of the centurions and said, "Bring this young man to the commanding officer, for he has something to tell him." So he took him and brought him to the commanding officer and said, "Paul, the prisoner, summoned me and asked me to bring this young man to you. He has something to tell you." The commanding officer took him by the hand and, going aside, asked him privately, "What is it that you have to tell me?" He said, "The Jews have agreed to ask you to bring Paul down to the council tomorrow, as though intending to inquire somewhat more accurately concerning him. Therefore don't yield to them, for more than 40 men lie in wait for him, who have bound themselves under a curse to neither eat nor drink until they have killed him. Now they are ready, looking for the promise from you." So the commanding officer let the young man go, charging him, "Tell no one that you have revealed these things to me." He called to himself 2 of the centurions and said, "Prepare 200 soldiers to go as far as Caesarea, with 70 horsemen and 200 men armed with spears, at the 3rd hour of the night." He asked them to provide mounts, that they might set Paul on one, and bring him safely to Felix the governor. He wrote a letter like this: "Claudius Lysias to the most excellent governor Felix, greetings. This man was seized by the Jews, and was about to be killed by them when I came with soldiers and rescued him, having learned that he was a Roman. Desiring to know the cause why they accused him, I brought him down to their council. I found him to be accused about questions of their law, but not to be charged with anything worthy of death or of imprisonment. When I was told that the Jews lay in wait for the man, I sent him to you immediately, charging his accusers also to bring their accusations against him before you. Farewell." So the soldiers, carrying out their orders, took Paul and brought him by night to Antipatris. But on the next day they left the horsemen to go with him, and returned to the barracks. When they came to Caesarea and delivered the letter to the governor, they also presented Paul to him. When the governor had read it, he asked what province he was from. When he understood that he was from Cilicia, he said, "I will hear you fully when your accusers also arrive." He commanded that he be kept in Herod's palace. All right, that is our reading for today. It's a good one. Thank you so much for joining. Would you please like and subscribe and join again as we continue on in our journey here through the Bible. By the way, happy Mother's Day to you mothers for yesterday. Hope that was wonderful. And now, have a very blessed day.